What about anger over a sacrilegious graffiti art installation at Canterbury Cathedral? There's nothing in the world that the anti-whites won't profane, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll make this, oops, we didn't mean to make that disappear, but we did mean to do that. Anger over sacrilegious graffiti and installation at Canterbury Cathedral. Did you hear about this? Canterbury Cathedral. We got to make another change. I can see right now there's a change that needs to be made. So give us a second here. Me and the great Falk, Maximilian von Falk, have to make a change. As I said, racing to the finish line. But you can see here, I think it's sacrilegious, writes this person. I think it's sacrilegious, was one person's response to graffiti style artwork inside Canterbury. It's not art, it's just expression. It is not art, it is graffiti. It is an expression of what they refer to later in this article as marginalized communities. And that, of course, is a mean pathogen that we don't use anywhere ever. And it says here, Canterbury Cathedral. Maybe you've heard of that before. It's an ancient building built by the white man with all its visitors in the UNESCO World Heritage Site appearing to appreciate the new installation. I don't think so. We're not appreciating the new installation. Brightly colored writing, asking questions like, are you there? What? How insightful. You know what I mean? And God, what happens when we die? I think that's addressed a little bit. I mean, maybe you should probably just sit down, shut up, and learn the white man's version of Christian. Which, how are we going to get back to the white man's version of Christianity? Well, we do that by supplanting the anti-white immoral imperative with a white positive moral imperative. And then not only do we interpret the Bible, we've got to make some bigger changes. Not only do we interpret it as we have by way of our biospirit, the lens of our instinct created by our creator. Not only do we do that, but we're going to have to get in there with a pen and make some changes so there can never be a misunderstanding again, just as there have been innumerable changes made to the Holy Bible over the years. Just know that. Are you there, God? Have been plastered on pillars and walls of the 579 AD founded building. The white man built this in 579 AD, and it is being profaned increasingly by anti-whiteism. How do we get to this point where you are allowed to put graffiti on this ancient, marvelous, and historic site of Western civilization? Well, the only way you get to this point is by way of anti-whiteism and white erasing the white race, our norms, our interpretation of the Holy Bible, our spirituality and communion with our Creator. And after a long time of that, you get to the point where you say, where are the non-white people to literally color over? Where are the anti-white, non-white people to literally color over the work that we are doing? To literally write over our most famous, historic, and beautiful creations here, our houses of spirituality, ladies and gentlemen. They speak to us spiritually, and you can know that that is indeed the case, that it is something inside of us, because it doesn't matter where you go throughout the ancient. You can go back to Aryan Greece, you can go back across our world in the West. You can take a look at what we have built as buildings for the gods to manifest, represent, magnify our spirituality, and it always speaks to you. You can be a dyed-in-the-wool Christian from the Bible Belt. You'll show up and you'll look at these ancient structures celebrating pagan gods, and you will feel that spirituality. The reason for that is an expression of our instinct, expression of our biospirit in our effort to commune with the eternal, ladies and gentlemen. That's what these buildings are meant to represent, profaned now by anti-whiteism and anti-white with this absolutely childish tear drivel scrawled on the walls. And this, of course, is, we all know the reality. This is what our cities look like. This is what our churches look like. This is what the West looks like as we are white erased from our creation. And of course, What other artifact do we see here when we look at this Anglican church and what has become of the church and the interpretation of the Word of God? Well, we also find a brand new Archbishop of Canterbury, Sarah Mullally. Sarah Mullally, it appears, is her. Sarah is the first female Archbishop of Canterbury. Sounds appropriate, doesn't it? Marriage is what brings us together today. Marriage, that blessed arrangement, that dream within a dream. That's what's become our new Archbishop of Canterbury, Princess Bride, if the people don't know where that's from. The everyday theological questions expressed in the art installation and cathedral historic. I don't even know where that came. I have no idea how that came back. I have no idea where that came from. Marriage. That's just what I can see Sarah saying. The Archbishop of Canterbury. Marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today. Historic tradition of graffiti have not stopped some from expressing very strong reactions. A spokesperson said in a press release on the works, "I think it's sacrilegious, to say the least," said one visitor, whilst another wondered whether the graffiti images made parts of the historic site look like an underground car park. It looks like a subway. Look at this gorgeous structure. However, there have been some positive responses, of course, by anti-whites. Now, I want you to pay close attention to the way they articulate the positivity. Let's have a look at some of these responses. Quote, others, though, were quick to speak of their admiration for the installation and artistry and emotional punch. It's always this like feminine language, isn't it? It's always this like intangible when it comes to anti-whiteism so very often. And they want to talk about how amazing and meaningful it is. It's always this intangibility. It's always this dust in the air. Nothing you can put your hands around. It's got emotional punch. It's artistry. The installation has been created by some poet and who was inspired by community workshops. And you know what that means, a mean pathogen for anti-whiteism, and which people responded to the question, what would you ask God? The cathedral said they worked with marginalized communities, so anti-white, non-whites, and a team of skilled artists to come up with the handwritten literature pasted on some of the pillars. How absolutely revolting.